Hello and welcome to our second edition of the DMI TeamTalk here. My name is Sean, tutor at the Digital Marketing Institute. And for anyone who's joining us for the first one of these are simply brief sessions where we run through some practical advice for all of you watching on Facebook and anywhere that you might find the recording, of course. This week, we're going to look specifically at user generated content, and we're going to have a look also at perhaps some things you might do in the lead up to St. Patrick's Day this month with user generated content to get started. Basically, we'll begin here with kind of an overview for some context of what UGC or user generated content is. And for anyone new to it, it's actually very general or very broad in terms of what comes under the umbrella of UGC. It can be text in the form of tweets or Facebook posts. It could be videos. It could be images. It could be reviews left on your channels, any of your channels, not just social media. And actually any creative format that we see across different channels. So if we take TikTok now, for example, a brand new app, basically, it might be something in the form of a TikTok video. It could be in the form of an Instagram post, or user-generated content may even be something that features on your website. So it has a very broad scope in terms of what it could be. So let's take a better look at really some examples here. So I have two examples here of user-generated content to kind of get us started. One is something you may have seen recently already, and you may have come across this. It was one of the most viral videos of 2020. And basically, this video, it went out on TikTok. It was created by a man who was going to work. He was drinking and skateboarding, and it essentially went massively viral. It had over 35 million views and over 6 million likes on TikTok alone. It was, of course, shared then on other platforms such as YouTube and so on. This is an example, though, of user-generated content that's not led by a brand or a company. It's simply a viral video, which also comes under this umbrella of UGC. But what we really want to look at today and start with this example is user-generated content that is led by a company, and there is a strategy behind UGC, and the company are actively trying to leverage UGC. So this example is from Starbucks. So Starbucks have had a UGC campaign running for a number of years, centered around hashtag Red Cup Contest. Essentially, what they're doing here is getting their brand followers or their loyal customers to share content of themselves and their product, i.e. the coffee cups. And they're putting different parameters around the contest each time, but it's actually ran year after year, you know, for a number of years now. So what they're basically doing is they're encouraging users to send in content to their channels, and they're kind of building the kind of parameters around that. We'll kind of come back to some more examples, one specific around St. Patrick's Day, but just for context, you can already see there's two different kinds here of UGC. There's ones that companies can kind of lead and control in some way, and then there's the former one that we looked at, where something goes viral and a user of one of these platforms has basically planned or otherwise just come up with a great piece of content that goes viral and gets a lot of reach. So why would you consider user-generated content and consider bringing it into your social media strategy or even your overall digital marketing strategy? Well, a few key things here. So one is, from a composite of studies, we see that user-generated content actually promotes authenticity. People are in an age of a lot of clutter on Facebook and Twitter, a lot of the same content formats, a lot of sales type messages from companies. People value now the authenticity of user-generated content. They actually engage more with it. We see here from this first point that actually people are 2.4 times more likely to view user-generated content, and that is on platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and so on. In fact, TikTok is mostly user-led content anyway. Another key factor is creating trust between the company and the viewer of the content. Because people, and we see here 92% of people actually trust recommendations from other people that they know, or even 70% approximately trust the opinion of others. Perhaps they don't even know, but just people who are actually giving their own reviews and their own honest opinion online. So there's a lot there to leverage from that. And then also we see here that it actually drives purchase decisions, and it drives action decisions basically across your channels, with 80% of people saying that user generated content has a high impact on their purchasing decisions. And that might be at any stage of the funnel. It might be when they first become aware of your company. It might be when they're kind of considering, or they're going from your social channels to your website and so on. Or it might indeed be reviews and last minute information before they actually make a purchase. So there's a number of different things there to consider in terms of why you should be using it. More broad factors, though, is it actually increases your digital marketing activities and strategy across the board. So if we look at engagement, it actually promotes engagement from user to user. It's actually more likely that your users will want to, your users or customers, I should say, will want to interact with each other rather than just with you as the kind of brand voice or company voice. In terms of traffic, we actually see that engagement is a key ranking factor for SEO, and that's obviously with search engines such as Google and Bing and so on. So it's actually going to improve your SEO rankings. Shareability is another big factor. Shareability, we're talking about here the potential to increase your brand awareness type metrics. So we're talking about not just engagement, but video views and kind of views of your post and so on. So it goes back to that sort of point about viral content. You can snowball with content, and shareability can lead to more views and so on. So the other key point around it is originality. So UGC, user generated content, it is content obviously coming from your own users, not from the company. And in some ways it's unpredictable, but in many ways it's going to be original. It's going to be what other people think of your brand. It's going to be other voices apart from your kind of brand's tone or brand voice. So you're going to generate content for your marketing practices overall that's quite unique and original and give a better perspective. More reasons here. It's evergreen quite often. User generated content that comes back from a campaign that you've conducted. You could use it that day, you could use it the next week, or you can put it into a kind of bank of material that you might use for future purposes. It's super easy to produce also. So you're obviously putting all the kind of heavy lifting and the work on the user themselves. We're going to look at kind of how you might best do this, but essentially you're not putting your own marketing efforts and your own team's efforts into this actual content. And that leads on to the next point. It's very low cost. So that makes it accessible to businesses of all sizes, marketing teams of all sizes, even people who are sole traders, have an online business on their own, or any kind of company, a client even perhaps. So it brings down costs, and it brings down the amount of work that's required from you and your team. Best practices around UGC. So when you're leading this type of content and you're actually, as the company, trying to drive it, there are a few things you should probably look at doing, because it can be a little bit unpredictable, user generated content, and it might not even always be positive. So one of the best things to do, first of all, is to actually put some context around what you're looking for. So you'll see, even with the Starbucks example I used, they're putting the parameters around it. They're actually asking specifically for the types of images that they like. In that example, they were asking for people to post pictures of themselves with their famous red cups. But this is a good practice in terms of really filtering out any kind of negativity that you might get or something inappropriate, and making sure that the kind of content you get back from the user is going to match your company's brand, or it's going to be in line with the kind of image you want to portray. Another really good practice here is to make use of search streams to find user-generated content that you might be missing. So it's very easy when you run a user-generated content campaign to include a hashtag and to have an overview of all of the images or videos or user content that's coming back from this campaign under the hashtag. But you might also be missing a lot of content from people who are basically talking about your company or talking about your product or your service, but not using hashtags. In fact, that kind of content could even make up the majority of what's out there. So how do we capture this, and how do we understand how much of this is out there? It leads into a social listening program. So social listening is simply the process of listening to all of your users on social media, what they're saying, what they're posting, and so on. And it has many different purposes. But in the context of user generated content, it's just going to make sure that you capture everything that's out there coming back as a result of your hard work on your user generated campaigns. Some tools that might help you with social listening are BuzzSumo, Hootsuite, Sprout Social. But it actually might also be as simple as simply searching social media channels for different keywords outside of your hashtag. But it's good to know what everyone's saying and have a full idea of the conversation as well. Another key thing that you should be considering when you're looking at doing user-generated content campaigns is to learn from all the content that comes back, and actually use it in some ways as a kind of focus group, if you like. Find out what your fans are saying about your product. What kind of language are they using? That might be language that you can work into your call to action on different posts, or it might kind of inform the conversation that you have with your users online. You should also look at maybe alternate hashtags. What hashtags are people using when they speak about your brand? They might be using the hashtag you've outlined for your contest or for your particular campaign. But what else is going alongside that? And can it be something you incorporate into your own campaigns? And also, you need to look at what ways people are using your product or your service. Maybe you find that your product and service is being photographed and videoed and captured and commented on in line with other products or in a certain kind of setting or a certain kind of context. And that might actually be a form of research for you and your team to understand what you might do with future marketing campaigns or product pairings that you could have. So there's a lot of information that comes back here that might be unexpected but can be harnessed nonetheless. I want to look at St. Patrick's Day in particular because, as with any kind of large holiday that's celebrated internationally, it gives you a chance to involve yourself or your company in the conversation in some way. But also, we see, generally speaking, across social media platforms, that holidays such as this cause a spike in traffic anyway, because people are on there sharing their experience of St. Patrick's Day or whichever holiday it is and sharing their content. So if you're considering UGC for the very first time, we might look at some examples here of how other more established companies or how large multinational companies are getting involved or have got involved specifically with St. Patrick's Day in the past. So the first example here we see is M&M's selfie campaign. So very simply and very cleverly, M&M's had a campaign where they encouraged their users to send in a kiss here to this female M&M, whose name I've forgotten, with the chance of winning some money as well. And the whole idea was to generate people's content, get some buzz going on social media, and basically it was a brand awareness type campaign. Very effective, very cost effective, as we've kind of looked at as one of the key points, and generates a lot of interesting content that M&Ms could share across all their different social media profiles, and specific to St. Patrick's Day, obviously. So riding that wave of traffic that comes in these weeks and days around these holidays. Another example is from Guinness, who you might expect would have a user-generated content campaign around St. Patrick's Day. But a very, very clever campaign here. Guinness asking people to take a picture of their Guinness tash So a picture of that kind of Guinness foam just above your lip. So it's incorporating their product directly into the photo and making it the center of it almost, but getting people to have fun with their product and getting people and obviously getting all the other benefits of user generated content as well. So a very clever campaign that they ran in the US. Now let's look at some ways you might be able to do it, considering you have some time in the lead up to St. Patrick's Day. So there are a number of things to do. It's not just all selfies and it's not just all videos and TikTok videos. There are ways for you to kind of lead a campaign of this nature. So one way is simply crowdsourcing ideas. It's actually just asking questions on platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, asking for people's opinion. Users, you will find, love to give their opinion online. So you're involving them directly by simply asking questions instead of sending out statements across your channels. So that's one good way to begin, very simple for any company. Turning customers' stories, though, into stories that you can use in your content is another good way. We see now native features on Facebook, such as Facebook Stories. We see the same on Instagram Stories and a number of these platforms. So finding ways to take your customer's journey with your product or your service or their experience and bringing it into some video content of your own is another great way, another really practical way that you might approach UGC coming up with St. Patrick's Day. Using product reviews is a very good one too. So you might be familiar with YouTube videos showing the unboxing of products on Christmas Day or just in general, getting people's reactions. There's actually people who make a living out of unboxing videos, but you might try get in on this in some way and encourage people to send their product reviews and their unboxing moments back to you. That potentially could create very good content for you. Another quite easy thing to do for some particular companies would be expert Q&As with customers. So you can have authorities or knowledgeable people from your own company in participating in a Q&A with your customers, giving your customers a voice, showing them that you trust them, and in turn getting trust from them and creating some great content that you can share along the way. Obviously, contests are a great way. So if you can incentivize people to send you content in some way, such as the Starbucks example with the red cup, then you're more likely to get a reaction and a response, particularly if it's something quite nice that you can win. But also, people do generally like to get involved in these things and be creative. So another key point which it leads us into is the use of hashtags and photos, and it's actually more of something that should be a feature of your user-generated campaigns, content campaigns. You should be setting those parameters around what types of photo you like to kind of have some control over the content and not kill creativity, of course. But you should also be suggesting hashtags so that you're kind of housing all this content you got back in a particular searchable feed for people. And the last point here is an interesting one, gamification. If you can make it fun and interactive in some way, this is going to lead to more engagement too. So these are kind of some of the key things that you should consider if you are considering your first user-generated campaign. If you're looking for some content or for some reading around this particular topic, you'll actually find lots of it on our own platform. I've listed a few here, but Nail Your Content Strategy with Kate Talbot is a good one. 3 Trends Defining the Future of Social Media for Business. The Story of the Selfie as well. Selfies are one of the kind of leading types of content you get from UGC or UCG campaigns. UGC campaigns, I should say. That's worth checking out. And we also have other UGC content reading in there. That's if you're looking for a deeper dive, it's going to be very interesting. And of course, for those of you that don't know, you can actually get a free trial of our membership platform. So I have the link here, but if you go to digitalmarketinginstitute.com/students, you'll have access there to a free trial. And for anyone that's not familiar with us already, that will involve access to articles, webinars, podcasts, ebooks, case studies, toolkits, a whole other range of content as well. And for anyone who might be looking at an academic undertaking, we actually have a virtual open day coming up on March 24th between 3 and 4 p.m. And that's with our own Dr. Alex and James. So they will essentially run through some of the courses that we have to offer. We offer courses at all different levels, whether you're a beginner or you're quite a seasoned digital marketer, but that might be something that you would be interested in checking out. But thanks very much for joining us today for this particular session. I hope it gave you some insights into UGC and how it might work for your company, and I hope it gave you some key insights into perhaps how to run these campaigns. We hope to see you again next month for another DMI Team Talk, and have a great day. Have a great week.